Welcome everybody. G.A. Bartick here from Alan Ram's Proactive Trading Solutions. And I am super excited to bring to you a really unique interview. Today we're going to be talking to Shelley Ram-Saban, the owner of Alan Ram's Proactive Trading Solutions, and how she became the owner of this organization, what she's doing now to lead the company through, as we're all know, these unusual COVID times, and where the company is going, and how are we preserving the legacy of Alan Ram. So Shelley, hey, thanks a lot for joining us today.
Thank you, GA.
And so, you took over in 2017, and I just, with your permission, I'd love to just kind of go back if we can in time a little bit, and talk about, how you took over the company, and, and when you did, how did you be able to take the company and turn it into the successful business it is today? So tell us, if you could, just, what happened back then, and why did you take over? You could be
well, it's a loaded question. On July 17th, I basically got a phone call around 5:30 p.m. and letting me know about the accident. And that was it. I was on a plane July 18th to Phoenix to find out, what lay before me. I really had no idea what to expect, but I was told that this was a business that was in my purview right now. And so I was up for the challenge. It was a lot to deal with, a lot to handle. I had, the accident in hand, and I had, dealing with the loss of my brother, and, everything kind of, managing my family, managing the estate, just everything. So it was a lot, but it was definitely a unique challenge.
And it sounds like it's a lot to have on your plate. But didn't you also have a regular full-time job too that you had to leave?
Yeah, I was working at a large Fortune 500 company in a management position there. And really, I've been there for almost 11 years. And from one day to the next, it was like, I have to go. And so that was really difficult because there was a lot of my identity placed in this organization that I had, roots with, I had connections to. And I had just a lot of friends there and just everything.
Wow. And so, but that business obviously was not in automotive, correct?
Well, it was a technology company. And one of my areas that I was working on was in actually automotive technology. Oh, so wow. I was actually planning that September to go to the Frankfurt Auto Show. So we really were, really getting into the space and really enjoying the advances that automotive OEMs were having in the technology space.
And so prior to, unfortunately, your brother's accident, did you have any idea that the company become your responsibility?
I had one inkling he came to me at one point, probably late 2016, I'd say. And he came to my house and he was like, by the way, if anything ever happens to me, you're going to have to quit your job. And I just kind of remember that. And my husband remembers that because I was laughing and I was like, okay, and I laughed it off. And he looked at me with this intensity in his eyes and he's like, no, I'm serious. And, it kind of like, that hit me especially right after the accident. Because right after the accident, I was like, wow, do you remember that? I asked my husband because that was it was such a weird moment, and then it just all came flooding back to me. So he was serious.
Wow. And I mean, just kind of curious, why do you think he left the company to you in your hands?
We were really close. We have a lot of similarities in our philosophies, in, kind of our moral compass. We're very different in a lot of ways and similar in a lot of ways. So I think he really trusted me. I think of anybody, he really trusted me. I wasn't, I didn't have ulterior motives, and, he had just seen kind of how I handled my parents and their aging process and how I was able to do it objectively. And so I think that he saw my integrity in that and understood that I was his best option. And I know he had a lot of colleagues around him that also had that expertise and probably, could have taken it over. And I was really honored that he trusted me with it because he had built such a beautiful business, and he really did. It was, it's such a important niche that he has. So I was really honored.
Good deal. And it's obviously to go from one day in your current role to the next day to running a successful organization. Just kind of curious, how do you feel you've done so far taking that challenge on?
Well, it was a lot. I'm not going to lie. It was really overwhelming. It was, I had so much. Like I had mentioned, I have, 2 children who are school age. I have aging parents. And so it was a lot to take on. And a lot of time, a lot of the organization that was internal, it was, like I mentioned, my brother and I had very different styles, right? We were similar, but we had very different management styles. And I'm more of a team collaborator and believe in that process. So it had to be an iteration of working to establish a team that could help bring us forward. And so that was one of the biggest challenges that I had, was finding the right people in the right places to really help and move the company forward in his absence.
Yeah, I got to tell you, since I joined the organization to see and hear your knowledge about the industry and just how you keep the content fresh and relevant now that Alan's gone. How are you able to do that?
We're always going through the content. We have our pulse on the industry. We are reviewing the content and making sure that it is relevant. And when if there's something that's a little bit off, we are quick to, insert content that is fresh. We want to always do this with Alan at the core, but also realizing that the market is changing and evolving. So we're going through right now, and we've scrubbed the scripts, and we've, really added some additional nuances there that really update it, keeping a pulse with our dealer clients and seeing what they're hearing and the trends in the market to be able to create new content for that. So we just created 30 new chapters of a digital reality course. And that was really based on what we were learning from clients and evolving the internet content that Alan had into the year, 2020 and beyond. So yeah, really just looking at that. We're also redoing the workbook right now, which is a huge undertaking because it's really consolidating and updating all those scripts into one place. So it's interesting. It's just really being able to evolve it. I think that Alan's core foundations and principles are key to what we do. And they'll be always at the heart of everything. But evolving that through time is where we're going to be working towards.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's this timeless, some of his beliefs that, hey, you're not training to get done, you're training to get good. It's about becoming unconsciously competent. It's about just knowing it, being able to react when you're talking to a potential client. But obviously today's different with COVID. So how's that impacted the business?
Well, COVID definitely, was an unexpected challenge for everybody worldwide. So it's, it's not unique to us. And I think that we were March was hard, right? March, everything came and really the main thrust was let's get and talk to all the clients and see where they're at. Are they open? Are they closed? And how everybody is going to manage this. And one thing that we found consistently was people weren't communicating. So we would go and we would call and we just get, ringing off the hook and no voicemails, nothing, no recordings, websites weren't being updated, things like that people had to communicate what was happening. The dealerships had to communicate what was happening. So right away, we developed a series of scripts for, simple things like voicemail communications, how to update you, what to put on your website. Also, what are the first calls you want to make to your client base as a dealer, right? Because we didn't, it can't be an opportunistic thing, but you have to also communicate and inform and engage with your clients. So that was something that was really important. So we've added some COVID scripts right now also to our file vault and, really working to evolve that. And, it was interesting to see it because how much is a dealership going to be impacted by COVID? And obviously everything is impacted by COVID. But the truth is that people still want to touch and see a vehicle before they buy it for the most part. I mean, I went to buy shoes the other day and I usually buy everything online. And I was like, I kind of need to try these on because I don't want to buy 10 pairs of shoes. And this is a car. So it's people want to be able to buy it before or see it and touch it and feel it before they buy it. So it's just what are dealerships doing? What precautions are they taking? How do they make the shopper feel safe is really the thrust of everything these days.
But it's impressive, though, that as soon as there's an issue, you guys were creating new content, getting it up online for your clients.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was a nice little undertaking, but it's something that, we talk to the dealerships, their need, and want to know, what do I say? How do I communicate that? How do we talk about if someone's going to come down to the dealership and they're concerned, what precautions we're taking in service, and in the new and used cars?
Yeah.
So how do you think it's going to change, COVID, how dealerships move forward and their structure? What do you think is going to happen?
I like I said, I think that the dealerships just need to evolve, and I think that the customers, like I said, will still want to feel touch a vehicle, but they and for years everybody has been saying this, they want transparency, right? They want limited time at the dealership, they want seamless processes. So really working on streamlining their processes so a shopper can get in and out fairly quickly, right? As I remember buying a car years ago, it was like you sat in the dealership for hours, and nobody wants to spend the whole day doing that. So it's really just finding, where you can streamline things. And I think it's providing an opportunity for dealerships to see when they have a skeleton crew, how do we make this the most efficient process for everybody, right?
No doubt. And so, over the past 3 years, what's been the best part about taking over for Alan?
I really think that the working with the dealerships, it's really been humbling, because I know that my brother, as a former Marine, was really very much into giving a hand up, not a handout, right? So making sure that, people have the tools in order to be better. And I love that philosophy, and I love going to management by fires and meeting our clients and talking with them and just seeing how they were impacted and moved by my brother. And what's really validating is when I see somebody at a management by fire and they tell me, wow, I was at an event with your brother and I love this, I love what you guys have done and how you've evolved it. That's incredibly rewarding to me. And I also, it's very validating when we have clients coming back to us. So we've had clients that were, with my brother, even before the accident had canceled, and they come back because the content is so good. And that's really, to me, that's very, it's very rewarding. And it just it validates the knowing that this is something very special. The content that he created is fantastic and it works. And people don't come back, if it doesn't work. So I love it. And that's one of the really most rewarding things about this position.
Really interesting. And, looking back, what do you think is one of your biggest learnings that you've seen and had to deal with over the last couple of years?
I really don't know where to start with that, actually. This has been like an MBA on steroids for the past, I have an MBA, and this is like way more than that, right? So it's been an incredible learning, right? Like, even to the basics of seeing the back end P&L of a business and being able to read that and understand that, and, things, and managing employees, and just running a business is a hugely different beast than being an employee at a large corporation, right? Like, it's completely different. And it's interesting to see, because I know now, looking back, what makes the perfect employee too, and how I would be better because of that. So I think that I don't even know where to start with that. I think that there's just so many learnings in this, and just always learning, always taking from it. There's a lot of mistakes, obviously, that you make in business, and just taking that forward and learning with it. I think this is like the education of a lifetime. So I don't know if there's one thing that I've learned, but I think, just being able to adapt and be flexible, and really taking in feedback is important.
And why do you say that the feedback is important?
I think listening to people, and knowing, getting the feedback from our clients, from employees, how to make things better. We've changed core processes because of that. We've established training plans in place for dealerships because they wanted more structure. So putting a 12-week structure around onboarding employees was really important. So really creating those processes and listening to what people are looking for. You know, we've, for years, one of our core tenets, we have 3 tenets: education, accountability, simulation, and accountability. And part of the accountability is call monitoring. And with call monitoring, you know, we tell people to call monitor, but we also don't really tell them what they should be listening for. So creating checklists for call monitoring, what you should be listening for on your new car, on your used car, even on your outbound calls, what you should be listening for. So really creating those tools and being, you know, able to take the information in and what our clients find value in is hugely important. And I think it's provided a lot of value.
Well, good deal. So if you are a salesperson watching this Facebook Live, Shelley, what is one piece of advice you would give them in regards to potentially looking at, or if they're currently doing Allen Ram training, what's the one piece of advice you would give them to be a more effective salesperson?
Oof, one piece of advice is to get all your sales teams on this. It can't be one person at the dealership, right? It has to be a team effort. A dealership needs to be bringing training in as part of their culture. So that's really critical, and making training a consistent part of their routine. So like I said, the education is just watching the videos, knowing the content, but you need to practice that. You need to simulate. You need to be able to know what you're saying at such a competence, right? The unconscious competence, right? Being able to say it and know exactly what to say at the right time. And so I think that just the consistency in training is hugely important, and just getting everybody on the same page.
Good. And again, as Alan says it over and over again throughout the training, you're not training to get done. You're training
to get good.
And it's, you know, you watch the videos, and again, you walk away with what we call verbal knowledge. You kind of know what to say. You see the scripts. Alan's, you hear him saying it. You hear Susan saying it. But then how do you go from verbal knowledge to verbal skill where you can actually say it and say it out loud, to verbal mastery? And that's really, as the manager of the dealership, is how do you get your team really effective at that? So at any given moment, if it's a new car call, a used car call, any questions, they know what to say and how to say it to really get that person into the dealership.
Yeah.
And so think about it though. Shelley Ram-Saban, she came in, one day she's got her job in a large corporation, the next day she's running a multi-million-dollar company. Think about what that would be like to go from an industry that she really wasn't an expert at, and then 3 years later still have a thriving company. It just says a lot for what Alan created and who you are as a person too, Shelley.
Thank you.
And so if you're not part of the Allen Ram family and you're a prospective client, we'd love to hear from you. And usually to get everything set up, it's about a $1,995 activation fee. Right now, between now and the end of the month, if you give us a call, we will eliminate that activation fee for you. Or if you are a current client, which there's a lot of you out there, coming up on October 6th and 7th, we're going to have an amazing Management by Fire event in Phoenix, where we're going to be really working with managers on how do you do simulation? How do you make sure your team is really effective at the skills and the tools, so that when you're spending multiple dollars in marketing and getting that phone to ring, getting those emails to come in from prospects, that your team is at the ready to be able to communicate effectively, to get those people into your dealership, so those people your team becomes your competitive advantage for your dealership. So if you want to be part of our Management by Fire right now, between now and on September 1st, we're going to take $25 or 25% off. Now, $25, 25% off of our Management by Fire tickets. So go onto our website. Shelley?
Can I mention that it's COVID friendly? So we worked really hard with the hotels to make sure that it's safe. And so we have a 3,000 square foot space where we'll be limiting attendance to 20 and requiring masks and hand sanitizing units and ventilation in the room. So really making sure to make this safe. Really don't want to put anybody at risk. So just making this a safe Management by Fire.
Good deal. Well, hey, again, thank you very much, Shelley. It's been great kind of hearing how you got to where you are today and what Allen Ram Proactive Training Solutions is doing to stay on top of current events, making sure that the clients have the content and information they need to really drive great results. Thanks again, Shelley. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.